3 painful signs you're secretly a dark chosen one. Don't ignore. It always starts with pain, not the kind that screams, but the kind that lingers. The kind that follows you in silence, even when your life looks fine on the surface. You begin to feel like something is off, not wrong, but different. You notice things others don't. You feel energies in rooms. You sense when someone is lying, even if they're smiling. And slowly you realize that the world you've been taught to see is not the real one. There's a deeper layer, a hidden current, and it's been calling you your entire life. You just didn't know what to call it. You just thought you were broken. But the truth, you were never broken. You were chosen, just not in the way religion or pop spirituality would ever dare to tell you. This isn't about being better. This isn't about superiority. This is about function. Some of us were built differently. Some of us were encoded with darker frequencies, not evil, but deeper. Frequencies that can move through pain, through shadow, through truth that terrifies most people. If that resonates with you, then you already feel it. You're not here to fit in. You're here to disrupt. You're not here to save the world in white robes. You're here to shake it awake, even if that means being misunderstood, feared, or even exiled. That's the cross of the dark chosen one. And the signs that mark you. They don't come as blessings. They come as wounds.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The first painful sign is that you never belonged anywhere. Not in your family, not in school, not in religion, not even in spiritual communities. From a young age, you carried a sense of otherness. You weren't just different, you were alien. You spoke truths that made adults uncomfortable. You asked questions that had no answers. You saw through masks before you even knew what masks were. And because people didn't understand you, they tried to fix you, quiet you, shape you. And when that didn't work, they rejected you. So you learned to hide. You learned to shrink. You learned to play human. But deep down, you always knew this wasn't your real home. This kind of alienation isn't a flaw. It's a marking. The universe isolates those it intends to use. It separates them from the herd, not to punish them, but to prepare them. Because the dark chosen one cannot be conditioned by the world they're meant to disrupt. You had to feel like an outsider. You had to question everything, because only then could you see everything. Only then could you start remembering who you really are underneath the programming. But here's where it gets more painful. The more you remember, the more the world pushes back. That's the second sign your truth costs you everything. The more you speak, the more people leave. The more you embody your essence, the more you're accused of being too much, too intense, too dark. And so you're forced to choose, betray yourself to be accepted, or stand alone in your truth. This is the moment most people break. But not you. Because something in you knows this path wasn't meant to be easy. It was meant to be real. You start to realize that your life has been a series of initiations, that every betrayal was a classroom, that every loss was a sharpening, that every descent into darkness was a test to see if you would forget yourself. And you didn't. You couldn't. Because something deeper was always burning inside you. A knowing. A memory. A frequency that whispered, there is more to this world than they can see. There is more to you than they will ever understand. And that knowing kept you alive when everything else fell apart. Let me ask you a question that few dare to face. What if the pain you've been trying to heal isn't your weakness but your origin story? What if the trauma wasn't a detour but a portal? What if your suffering didn't break you but revealed you? This is the third sign and perhaps the most difficult to grasp. You attract darkness, not because you're bad or broken, but because you're built to transmute it. You've always been a magnet for wounded people, for chaotic environments, for energies that others can't handle. Empaths often mistake this for being cursed. But the truth is darker and more powerful. You are a mirror for the unhealed. Your energy exposes what others bury. Your presence stirs what others suppress. And so they either cling to you or they run from you. But neither reaction has anything to do with who you are. It has everything to do with what you activate. You didn't come here to be liked. You came here to be a force, to carry a frequency that disrupts illusions, to hold a vibration that doesn't just heal but reveals. And that's why your life has been so intense. That's why you've been through things others can't imagine. Because you're not here to live a normal life. You're here to walk between worlds, to carry light into darkness, not by avoiding the shadow, but by becoming friends with it. And now, with everything you've been through, you're starting to feel it, aren't you? The shift, the pull, the call. You're not just waking up, you're rising, and the world won't know what to do with you. That's okay. It never has. Because you weren't made for the world as it is. You were made to help birth what comes next. Why your pain is the proof, the dark path that burns away illusion and awakens true power. Pain is the compass, not the enemy, not the punishment. It's the sacred signal, the coded language of the universe that most people misinterpret. But for you, for the dark chosen one, pain isn't just an experience. It's a message, a transmission. It's the pressure that cracks open the faked layers and reveals the raw, unfiltered truth you were born to carry. The pain you've endured, the patterns you've repeated, the betrayals you've survived, they weren't random. They were rituals. And every one of them was designed to burn away illusion and awaken something ancient inside you. Something that's been waiting, dormant, for lifetimes. You see, the dark chosen ones don't awaken through comfort. Comfort dulls the senses. It puts the soul to sleep. But your life hasn't allowed that, has it? You've been thrown into fire again and again. Not because you're cursed, but because your soul is indestructible. And it had to remember that. Let that sink in. What if your life has been hard not because you're weak, but because you're dangerous to the lie? What if your pain hasn't been a sign of failure, but evidence of your assignment? There's something you begin to realize when you've suffered enough. You don't break the same way others do. You bend, you shatter, but you reform. Stronger, sharper, stranger, even. And every time you do, you become less like the world and more like who you were before the world got to you. That's the real awakening. Not a moment of bliss, but a slow peeling back of everything that isn't you. And it hurts. Because you're not just losing illusions, you're losing identities, roles, attachments, and sometimes even people you thought would be there forever. But here's the thing, if it can be burned away by truth, it was never meant to stay. The dark chosen one's life is a series of sacred losses. Not because you're unworthy of love or stability, but because those things must be earned through alignment, not clung to out of fear. You're being shaped into something that cannot be seduced by comfort or corrupted by power. You're being forged into a vessel that can hold truth even when it's ugly, inconvenient, or dangerous. And that's why your pain is proof. Proof that your soul refuses to settle. Proof that your essence cannot be tamed. Proof that you are being initiated not by human hands, but by the intelligence behind the veil. Every sleepless night, every betrayal, every time you screamed into the void and got silence back, all of it was shaping you. All of it was stripping away what was never truly yours. You've likely noticed that you don't process experiences the way others do. Pain doesn't just make you cry, it makes you transform. You don't just survive darkness, you absorb it, you learn from it, you alchemize it into wisdom, into art, into power. And people feel that, even if they don't understand it. That's why they're drawn to you, or repelled by you. Because you carry something they haven't faced in themselves. Your pain didn't just give you empathy, it gave you sight. You see through the masks. You feel the hidden agendas. And no one taught you how. You just know. That's not trauma. That's training. Let me ask you something that could shift your entire perspective. What if the thing you've been trying to heal was never meant to be healed, but harnessed? What if your scars weren't evidence of damage, but of destiny? The truth is, the dark chosen ones are not here to play by the rules of healing that keep people safe, soft, and stuck. We're not here to be palatable. We're here to pierce. Our pain isn't meant to be erased, it's meant to be wielded. The wound is the weapon. The suffering is the sword. And when you stop hiding it, when you stop apologizing for your depth, your fire, your grief, you become untouchable. Not because you don't feel, but because you felt it all and you're still here. This kind of power scares the world because it can't be bought. It can't be manipulated. It doesn't need approval. It just is. And that's why your journey has been so lonely. That's why most people can't walk beside you for long. Because you're not just walking a path, you're creating one. And that path requires solitude, silence, and yes, suffering. But on the other side of that suffering is sovereignty. A state where no one controls your peace, where no one defines your worth, where no one has the power to distract you from your calling. And that state is earned, not gifted. It's born from every moment you chose truth over comfort, alignment over attachment, purpose over popularity. So if you're still in the fire, know this: the pain isn't the end. It's the threshold. And once you cross it, you don't just heal, you remember who you are, what you carry, and why this world was never meant to feel like home. Because you didn't come here to fit in. You came here to wake it up. The mirror and the magnet, why you attract darkness and trigger others without doing anything wrong. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the entire energy shift without saying a single word? Have you noticed how people either open up to you instantly, exposing their deepest wounds, or they recoil, bristle, and avoid eye contact altogether? You don't do anything. You don't even try. And yet, again and again, you become the mirror they didn't expect to see. You attract the broken, the toxic, the lost, the intense. And no matter how much you try to protect your peace, the chaos finds you. The darkness finds you. It circles you like a moth to flame. And after a while, you begin to wonder, is something wrong with me? But let me tell you something that will change how you see everything. You're not cursed. You're coded. You are a mirror and a magnet by design. And that design is sacred. You attract darkness because you have the capacity to hold it. You trigger people because your presence brings their hidden parts to the surface. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because you exist at a frequency that exposes what's fake, what's fragile, and what's unhealed. That's not a flaw. That's a function. The dark chosen ones were never meant to blend in. We were built to agitate the illusion, to awaken the unconscious, to awaken the asleep. You are not here to make people comfortable. You're here to make them real. And realness often starts with pain. That's why you've been the villain in stories you didn't ask to be part of. That's why people have projected their fears onto you, blamed you for their own discomfort, or tried to diminish your power through gossip, gaslighting, or ghosting. But none of that is truly about you. It's about the light you carry into their darkness and the darkness you carry into their light. The truth is, people sense your depth before they understand it. And depth is terrifying to those who are still living on the surface. You don't just walk into their life, you shake it. You don't just listen, you see. And being truly seen is one of the most terrifying experiences for someone who's spent their life hiding. So they lash out, or they cling, or they vanish, and through it all, you're left wondering, why does this keep happening to me? But when you shift the question from why me to what am I awakening in others, everything changes. You begin to understand your energetic blueprint. You begin to see that you're not just a person. You're a portal. And portals don't come with instructions, they come with impact. Let me ask you something that may reframe your entire experience. What if you stopped seeing yourself as someone who causes discomfort and started seeing yourself as someone who activates transformation? Because that's what's really happening. Your presence activates, your silence speaks. Your pain, your story, your scars, they vibrate with a frequency that says, nothing fake can survive here. And people either rise to meet that truth or they run from it. This is why boundaries are not optional for the dark chosen one. You're not just protecting your energy, you're protecting your mission. You cannot afford to keep absorbing everyone else's pain like it's your responsibility to fix them. You are not a dumping ground. You are not a therapist for the unwilling. You are a mirror. And if someone cannot face what they see in you, you must let them go. Because the more you try to dim, the more chaotic your life becomes. You're not meant to dim. You're meant to burn. And yes, that fire will repel the wrong people, but it will also illuminate the right ones. You don't need everyone to understand you. You just need to stay aligned with your truth, and the tribe that speaks your language will find you. Not because you chase them, but because your frequency calls them. So, if you keep attracting darkness, if you keep triggering others, don't retreat. Don't shrink. Don't apologize. Stand in the storm and own your effect. You were never meant to be neutral. You were meant to be transformational. Reclaiming the throne, why the world needs your darkness and how to rise without permission. There comes a point on the dark chosen one's path where you stop waiting. You stop waiting for others to understand you. You stop waiting for the world to catch up. You stop waiting for permission to be who you are. Because deep down, you finally realize no one is coming to crown you. You were never meant to be crowned. You were meant to take the throne yourself. You've walked through fire. You've sat in silence. You've lost, mourned, awakened, and risen more times than people can imagine. And now, standing on the other side, you know something most never will. The world doesn't need more perfect light. It needs integrated darkness. It needs souls who have faced their shadow, eaten it, digested it, and become whole. That's what you are. Not broken, not toxic, not too emotional or too intense. You are whole. And wholeness is rare in a world addicted to pretending. While others are busy trying to be palatable, you've become real. And now, the invitation is this: rise anyway. Even if they don't get it, even if they project onto you, even if they try to silence you, rise anyway. Because the world needs what you carry. It needs your edge, your truth, your fire, your story. Not the sanitized, polished version, but the raw one. The one drenched in pain and power. The one that doesn't beg for love, but commands respect. That's the vibration of the dark chosen one, not arrogance, but embodiment. You've been initiated through pain for a reason. You've been marked by life to walk a different path. And now it's time to stop surviving and start building. Build the life that fits your frequency. Build the art, the message, the business, the legacy that only you can. Not to prove anything, but because your soul refuses to stay silent. Let me ask you one final question. If you stopped waiting for the world to validate you, what would you dare to become? Because that's the final transformation, not just knowing who you are, but living it loudly. Walking into rooms like you belong there, even if no one understands why. Speaking your truth like it's oxygen, not a request for acceptance. Creating like your ancestors are watching, because they are. You didn't come here to be saved. You came here to remember, to disrupt, to awaken, to rebuild. And that starts now. Not when you're ready, not when it's safe, but now. You are the dark chosen one. And it's time to rise.